Senator Warren says that she believes that there is overwhelming proof that these offenses, she's talking about obstruction of justice and I believe collusion, that these offenses occurred. How does she justify that with the fact that Mueller, in his report, 448 pages of it, came to the conclusion that there was no collusion, there was no conspiracy with the Russians, and there was no proof of a crime of obstruction?
Well, she can't. And I mean, we've known this, a lot of people have known this from the beginning, that this has been political from the start. This all started with the Russian dossier. That was a political dossier that was paid for by the Clinton campaign. And look, how did that dossier ever get leaked to the media? If we go back to the start of this thing, we know that in a top secret meeting that James Comey had with the president in early January, he appended the dossier, which was unverified. Media companies had this dossier in early fall of 2016. None of them printed it. They couldn't verify it. And I mean, we're talking about, media institutions that didn't like Donald Trump at all. They wouldn't even print it. So why did James Comey append it to this top secret intelligence briefing, right? Give it to the president. All of a sudden, after that meeting, it leaks to the press, and then, that's when BuzzFeed prints the entire Russian dossier. It had never been verified. That kicked off all the investigation, clamoring and so on. The whole Russian bit about him colluding and so on. And then we get to hear it's been political from the very start. Lisa Page said in her testimony that there was no evidence to start the counterintelligence investigation to begin with. So it had a political beginning, and it's going to have a political ending.
Right, and that brings me to my point. I mean, I truly think that the biggest conclusion, the biggest takeaway from this report is not even that there was no collusion or no conspiracy or no proof of a crime of obstruction. You and I and everyone who's been following this story for the last 2 years, we knew that already. That wasn't a huge surprise. It was a relief that it wasn't in there, but it wasn't a huge surprise because that's what the facts have been pointing to for the last 2 years. But I think what it shows us is that the Mueller investigation was illegitimate from the start. It never should have happened. Every accusation that you and I and so many other conservatives, or even a few honest liberals, every observation that we had over the past 2 years was correct. Mueller's team was made up of biased people. These people were very anti-Trump, and you can tell based off of the phraseology of the Mueller report. You can tell that even Mueller himself, I mean, this could be argued to be prosecutorial abuse. The fact that he lays out this type of evidence, all of this negative information about the president, and then punts, refuses to make a judgment about whether to recommend indictment or not. You don't do that. Citizens have a constitutional right not to have the government used against them as an arm of opposition research. Mueller knows better than that. And then when you add to those things what you said about the Steele dossier and how that was abused by the FBI, the biggest takeaway in this is that this investigation should never have been started in the first place.